Should have the Jazz done the Dame Lillard deal to get the college hero back? And is Flip so good we can move on from Lauri? It's all part of an Ask LOJ Friday edition of Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps. And to the everydayers, you're the best. And to everyone submitted questions for an awesome edition of Ask LOJ, thank you. Love the interaction. Love the shows. Great stuff. 18th of July. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. I was just looking at my camp tickets. Bottom on Game Time. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off the first purchase. And I was looking at my Keith Urban tonight, maybe. The cheap tickets are not expensive on Game Time. Or not as expensive. All right. What are we doing today? Your questions. They're pretty great. There are a lot of them. Fives that can't play four, fours that can't play five. 2 feet versus 1 feet basketball. Some good basketball questions. A lot of Keyonte George expectations. What about our young guys missing summer league? How vital is that? Rank the 9 youngsters. Kyle Filipowski, insanity love. Reality check coming from me. But we start with, what are your thoughts on Dame Lillard going back to Portland? Should the Jazz have done this? So my first thoughts on Dame Lillard going back to Portland is I don't get it at all. I'm a little confused with Portland's roster. They have a 35-year-old point guard in Drew Holiday, and they have Dame's obviously. I don't think Dame plays this year. And so then they get him next year. They must have, and he has a no trade clause. So even if he lights it up, I mean, they just must have had a real conversation with him that he's gone through a divorce. He's separated from his kids, and he must have just wants to come back to be in Portland, and he's kind of willing to do it in any role. I mean, I think if you could have had Dame around from the Jazz standpoint as a veteran to teach the young kids to do that, it would have been great. He just knows how to play. He's worked hard. He's just a good kid. His work with the Special Olympics is amazing. So all of that stuff would have been great. As a player, he's not going to be the same. And coming back from Achilles tendon at 35 or 36 years old is really unlikely. And he was problematic defensively. He's going to the Hall of Fame, but I would also say I thought by the Milwaukee stint, I thought at some point you had to start looking back at Portland and say to yourself, okay, maybe some of Dame's defensive liabilities were significant enough that it prevented them from going places, because it was suddenly preventing Milwaukee from going places. So, should have the Jazz done this? One, I don't think they had the option, because I think Dame wanted to go to Portland and be back with his family and around his kids. And that was a lot of the talk last year of him being miserable. And I do think as a veteran leader, be good. As a basketball player, I don't see the value necessarily at this point in his career. Is Kyle Filipowski good or just looking good against summer league guys, or both? Is Flip a realistic substitute for Lauri, making Lauri and his big contract expendable? And is Flip's not as athletic, not as fast or quick, and works his butt off, and he's aggressive. Okay. So let me answer the second one first. Flip is not a realistic substitute for Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen is a top 50 player in the NBA. Lauri Markkanen has shot the three for the Jazz 1 year, and 1 year was not as good at I think, and was at 40% from three for 2 years in a row. Last year was off by a little bit at 35%. Is a career 37% shooter. Is athletically a different player. is limited in what he can do with the ball in his hands and make his own plays, but is still a far superior player. And I would be surprised if Filipowski's ever a top 50 player in the NBA. So, no. Flip is not a realistic substitute for Lauri Markkanen. Okay, so that one I'm moving past. Is Kyle Filipowski good or just looking good against Summer League? And I love this way this guy asked this question, or both. And the answer is both. We cannot take away how good Kyle Filipowski looked in Summer League. We can put it in context, okay? Philadelphia started Adam Bona. Bona was a second-round draft pick, similar to Kyle, so they're kind of on equal footing. Adam Bona's 6'10", and he played 58 games last year and played about 16 minutes a game for Philadelphia. And so that's like, he played at UCLA. He's talented, but he may be an NBA player. He may not. Not totally sure, actually. And so, yeah, opening night, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 8 of 11 shooting against the fellow second-round draft pick. Kyle was the 32nd pick. Bona was the 41st pick, kind of exact same place in their career. But not Jokic, obviously. But not even Donovan Clingan or Zach Edey. Like, if you run the Western Conference for a minute. Not Zubac, right? Right, not an NBA starter, like at best an NBA backup. The next night he went up against Baycott, who he had played a bunch of times at North Carolina, was undrafted, who played 14 minutes, and then Memphis generally played 6'6" and 6'7" and smaller the rest of the night. Oklahoma City played Cisco, who went to Cal. It was interesting, hasn't played in the NBA, played 6 years of college, and he played 14 minutes before they went small. Then against Charlotte, when he had a massive night, 32, 6, and 5, he literally played himself to some extent. He played Kalkenberger, who's I think older than he is, who's in Charlotte, who was, I think, the 34th pick of this year's draft, which is probably actually a better pick than Kyle. And he was, and he's 23 years old. He's older than Kyle. He just hasn't played an NBA game, so that's a perfectly good, fair comp. And Kyle was awesome at 32, 6, and 5. Then he played Evan Mobley's brother, Ivan Mobley, who had 21 minutes of game before he tapped out, and Golden State went small. And then in his really dominating performance against the Spurs, their starters played 5 minutes, and then they never had anybody taller than 6'9" on the floor. So he was great. He was great. And that's awesome because the alternative is the problem. But this is not NBA caliber centers. In fact, if you look at the guys he went against in the 6 games he played, my guess is that 2 of them get NBA minutes this year. Bona will get some NBA minutes for Philadelphia, and Kalkenbrenner will probably get a lot of NBA minutes for Charlotte the way Kyle did for us last year. I don't know if either of them are NBA good, but so he dominated 2 NBA rotation players, and that's great. And that probably should tell us that Kyle's ready to be an NBA rotation player and offensively is better than an NBA rotation player. He's a really elite offensive player. Now against Kalkenbrenner, he also had 8 fouls. So let's not take Kyle Filipowski's summer league against a bunch of guys that aren't NBA players and tell me he's better than Lauri. Let's not take Kyle's NBA summer league and say he's ready to start against other real NBA players. But let's take Kyle's summer league and say, that was kind of awesome. And that's a great sign. And that's exactly what he could have done because he didn't get to play against any of the bigger guys. And so against what he could face on those nights, he did on an offensive side of the ball the best he possibly could. And that's awesome. That's awesome. That's all he could play. Cannot blame him for the fact that that Memphis played their center 14 minutes, or Oklahoma City played their center 14 minutes, or that Golden State played their center 20 minutes, or that the Spurs played their center 5 minutes. That's not his fault. But it is context. How would you rank the youngsters as far as long-term value in the Jazz rotation and hopefully when they build a contender? Woo! Tuffy. Next on Locked On Jazz. Friday edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by my good friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and in Linden. Another happy customer this week. We set it up. I got the email. I need to go to Murdoch Hyundai. Last week, it was unfortunately one of our guys got his car totaled and needed to head down and ended up with a brand new car. This week, similar story, not a titled car, but someone needed it. So here's what happens. Cameron emails me at dlock09@gmail.com. And Jacob, my guy, gets back to him. And hopefully they are on their way to getting a new car for Locked On Jazz listener Cameron. All right, here's how it works. The Hyundai car, for the bang for the buck, there's nothing better on the market. You have to decide whether you like it, whether it's a car you want. Go to Hyundai and check it out. But instead of walking into the dealership and being like, oh gosh, who's coming at me? We're going to set it all up for you beforehand. You email me at dlock09@gmail.com. I set up the VIP meeting for you with our select salesperson who Blake Murdoch has chosen for us at each of the locations. And from there, we make sure that you get the VIP treatment that you deserve from Locked On Jazz to make sure that you get the best experience you can have over at Murdoch Hyundai. Today's show is brought to you also by Game Time. I told you, camp, I like my little indie folk rock, coming to town. I wish I was in town for Head and the Heart up at Ogden. Might think about Keith Urban tonight. Chris Stapleton coming to town. Millions of concerts right now. And I'm using the Game Time app each and every time because last minute deals are fantastic. It's the easiest way for me to grab last minute ticket deals without the stress and with the money you save on the tickets. A little food, drink, merch, whatever it might be. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app drop the closer you get to the concert time, first pitch, whatever it might be the deal you're looking for. Last minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantee. That's what makes the worrying of buying go away. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On and Locked On NBA, so it's making it easier to browse the app for exciting upcoming ball games. Game Time has the last minute tickets, zone deals for big savings like 10% off exclusive zone deals for World Cup matches that are coming. Seat views right in the app before you buy, so you know exactly where you'll be. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets and download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's $20 off your first purchase. Create an account. Redeem Locked On NBA for $20 off. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen today. Appreciate it. All right, I don't know if I'm going to get this right. Oh, I don't know if there's a right, but let's go with it. 9 youngsters as far as long-term value in the Jazz rotation. So I will go with Kessler 1. I'm 100% certain Walker's going to be an NBA rotation player. I'm going to go with Ace Bailey 2. I'm still think Keyonte's pulling this thing together. I'm going Keyonte 3. Bryce's shooting will win me over at number 4, though it's a big step for him defensively. Flip. So I said it yesterday. I'm going to go Cody 5. Flip 6. And I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm making stuff up now. There's 9, and I suddenly only have 7. I've forgotten someone. So Clayton Jr., 7. Collier, 8. Not because of any drag on them, and I've forgotten somebody because there's supposed to be 8 players. 9 youngsters, and I've forgotten someone. Taylor Hendricks has got to be in here somewhere. I have no idea. So I'm going Kessler, Ace, Keyonte, Bryce, Cody. I don't know. I'm kind of making that up. On the top side, Kessler's size means he's going to start or be an NBA rotation player. Ace's skill set and size, as I said during the draft, I just don't think he's a risk because he's 6'8" and can shoot. Keyonte, I think is going to, I'm still bullish on Keyonte. I believe Keyonte's got every skill there that's needed. Bryce's shooting is elite in a shooting league. I said it yesterday on Cody, and this will be our next question. Filipowski I just still don't know where he's playing defensively, and I don't know enough about any of the guards. In fact, Clayton Jr., I just don't know enough. I don't think that's a setting, and Collier's got to be able to shoot. Like, you cannot play and shoot 24% from three. And Taylor's injury. Taylor's body is great, so Taylor would go somewhere in the middle of the pack because of his body. Curious is your logic that Cody has more upside than Flip. I think you're on David Locke Island there. I probably am. Cody's doing more that doesn't seem to have a natural feel for the game at all. So this might be ridiculous, and I might look back at this and we might all laugh at me that in 2025, a year after Cody being drafted and having arguably the worst year of any top 10 pick ever and one of the worst NBA years ever, that I still think that if I had to project 5 years from now, I think that Cody's got a better chance to be a regular rotation player than Flip. Might be insane because of Flip's offensive skills. Here's my thought. Cody's 6'7", I think has multiple routes by which to play. I think he'll be able to play some 2. He'll play some 3. I think he'll be able to defend as he gets bigger and stronger. He is going to have to be able to shoot the ball consistently. And I think he'll be able to be at minimum. I still believe he's going to be a 15 to 20 minute NBA rotation player because 6'7" guys do that. And if he can shoot it adequately and handle it adequately, which are the two biggest areas of improvement, I think with size and strength, his defense will come around, and then he's an NBA rotation player. And I kind of think all those things are going to happen. I feel kind of comfortably. The 20-pound strength gain in the last year makes me feel like that the strength gain is going to come, and he's going to be 6'7", 210 at some point here. And then body-wise, he's just completely set. And then I just think there actually are enough skills for him to be a 4th or 5th guy on the floor really comfortably and to be effective. And so that's my thought. I could be way off. And the shooting is going to be the big issue. For Flip, there's no question how incredibly awesome his offensive skill set is. But there's also some things about it. Like some of the offensive skill set stuff is him handling, him handing off, him dribbling. Okay, you got to make sure you want him doing it, right? He's got to be the best guy who's doing it. He's not Jokic. Then if he's not doing that, he's really a spot-up stretch shooter, which is fine. The thing I'm most excited about is Summer League that I think it translates better is I think his shot looks great. And he shot 38% from 3. So that's the key. And then as we've just talked about a ton, like he's just got to get better laterally to move. And he's got to be able to move quicker. Like there were just those plays last year where he is guarding at the free throw line or the elbow and the guy catches and spins on him and he's still standing still. If he's a target, there was a great line last year about players. They can be deficient in something. This actually fits for both Cody and Walker, and this Cody and Flip, and this actually goes for Collier shooting. So you can be deficient. You can be less than average below. But if you're poor enough that it derails all other things that are going on the floor, then you don't get to play. So if Kyle's defense is such that every single time someone comes down the floor, they're calling him out, moving him in open space and just going at him or isolating him at the elbow. And so whatever your defensive scheme and whatever you do defensively is just out the window gone because of the fact that Kyle's so bad defensively that he doesn't get to play. If Isaiah Collier's shooting he does everything else great. He drives, plays with tempo, passes the basketball, defends his ass off, does all these things. If his shooting is so poor that when he ran a pick and roll with probably Flip, actually I think it was with Songo the other night at the elbow, and they went under at the elbow. So that no matter what your offensive system is, it's out the window. Then he can't play. Cody's shooting last year was so bad that no matter what the Jazz offensive system they were running is, the other team was leaving Cody wide open. They were bringing that guy into the middle of the paint. So the whole offense doesn't work just because of his deficiency. Then he can't play. Okay. So that's the game here, is that you can be below average or not great at something. But if you're so deficient that your offensive or defensive system actually can't function, you don't get to play. I think the concern still on Flip and Collier and Cody is that could be the case in some of their ways. How beneficial is Summer League for rookies like Walter Clayton Jr. and Ainge? Do we lose out on development opportunity? I've missed out on seeing Tanjay, actually. That was the one I want to see. I want to see him 25 years old and just be totally grown up above everyone else. He looked that way for a game. I have a mixed bag on this, and I think you're feeling this during the show. So I don't think a lot of Summer League. Okay, like, let's be perfectly honest. I love going down. I think NBA summer camp is the greatest thing ever. Seeing all my friends and having fun. I bumped into a former NBA coach who I've known since 98, who I've been with. And like, I looked into his, to make sure I had the right number for him. I had 5 phone numbers for him. Like, it was super funny. And like, okay, we've known each other forever. I'm old, as you can see the wrinkles on my face if you're watching on YouTube, and I've been in the league since 92. And it's 33 years of friendships and things in NBA. The Summer League is great, and it's the best we have right now. But as we move out of Summer League and we start to use it as an evaluation for what's coming up in the next year, and it's our most recent bias of impact on things, I think we need to flush it from our brain. I think Summer League is valuable for these young guys because it lets them run up and down the court and get some semblance and just get a feel and understand. But I also think this, for young players, I think this sequence of action, which is college season into full workouts to get ready for a season, into Summer League, into suddenly July 18th, and they're going to be back here by September. If they even go home by September 1, they're back having probably September 5 or whatever, post Labor Day. They're going to end up with a run in the gym here going pretty hard, and they're never going to get a chance to breathe, to even realize what's happened in their lives and who they are and where they live and what's taking place. So I don't see it as a massive development opportunity. I think it's a way for them to learn the offense and see it in the camp. And frankly, the 7 days prior to Summer League might be more important than the actual games. What are your expectations for Lauri this season? Are we beyond asking him to shot create, facilitate? And do you still think that development can happen? I love this question. I think this is a really interesting question. To some extent, we screwed up Lauri last year. We pushed Lauri beyond what he'd ever done before. We gave him the ball. We made him play isolation to see what he could do. And it didn't go great, frankly. And he didn't, he's still working on it. He is about to come off of his, there's Eurobasket coming up, and Scott Sheldon, Jazz assistant, is on that staff, and will be out there working with him, and will have touch points as an assistant on that staff and doing that. The fact is that Lauri actually only ran 85 isolations all of last year. It felt like we ran a lot for him, but I think he only ended up running 85 isolations all year, which is 153rd in the league, which is the same amount as Lou Dort. So it's a little like, I think we may have overplayed this storyline a little bit. With that said, he ranked 130th out of 177 guys who ran 70 isolations. He was in the 26th percentile. Like, that's not ideal. He was in the 13th, so it's not his strength. He's not comfortable at it. He isn't making inroads. He isn't owning his space. Do we keep working at it? Probably. Should we keep working at it? Probably. Should we overwhelm him with it and make him the only thing he's doing? Probably not. That maybe late in games you're bringing Flip in and trying to run some offense through Flip and doing some things of that sort to relieve Lauri and let him do what he's great at, which is play off the ball. That's a thought. I'll be interested to talk to Will about that. Questions have been fabulous today. Some good basketball questions about 2 feet versus 1 feet and more next on Locked On Jazz. I loved this question. And then some Keyonte questions. These always, I could do 2 to 3 shows off your questions. They're so good. Where is this question? I saved it on purpose. Question was, you've discussed playing off 1 foot, but basketball coaches in high school or college now are saying 2 foot plays with Brunson, Donovan, Knipple. It's Luka Doncic, really. So the 1 foot is going to the basket, accelerating to the basket on a break, in traffic, being able to get off 1 foot quickly and getting to the rim. The minute you bring the second foot down on your way up, you've now taken an extra split second and the world will collapse and close on you. Playing in control, in the paint, off 2 feet, coming set, throwing a pass, and be able to use all your options, or stepping through or using the Euro step in that fashion is the difference. So one is attacking the basket, trying to finish at the rim, having that aspect of your game, and the other is playing more in the paint in reaction to how hard it is to score at the rim in the NBA. The storyline, one of the big storylines in the NBA is that rim shots have just stayed the same. Teams have just decided what they're going to allow in regards to rim shots. It's been about 30% of the league shots are at the rim between transition and everything else. And it's been that way now for, frankly, I think about 5, 6, 7 years. And so in 31% last year's the rim shooting frequency, and everyone's trying to get to the rim every play. And the year before that, I think it was 31%. And if you kind of look, it's been 30% for a while. So now how do you react to last year? Actually, the year before was 32.8. So it's going down. You cannot get to the rim anymore in this league because teams have just decided to take that away defensively. Walker Kessler just stands there. And this is how you react. You come to 2 feet at 7, 8 feet, and you play off that and figure it out. And the best ones have. We'll see if Knipple really has that. That was those who liked Knipple. That was what they liked about him. What does success look for Keyonte in year 3? The first thing for me is obviously he's got to make a larger defensive effort. Okay. 2, the maturity he is showing in the off season, this right now parlays into the season, which is a little bit of the reason why I'm bullish on him. 3 is effective field goal percentage, which went from 12th percentile to 32nd percentile, has to continue to move upwards. He's got to do that by taking a few more shots at the rim. He's only taking 13% of his shots at the rim, which is the 16th percentile. So he's got to figure out how he's getting to the rim more and what he's doing in that regard. Like he just doesn't get to the rim very much, and his foul drawing is not very good. It's not bad. It actually got a lot better last year. It's one of the reasons I'm bullish on him. He went from 11% of his shots getting fouled to 12.4%, which is a big increase. So if he can get fouled a little bit more, move his shot distribution around a little bit, I think it will yield him to have less 4 of 14 nights on the offensive side. So to me, that's the big thing, is just the amount of nights Keyonte has a night that's just a killer, like kills the team. Just, if you go and look last year, I think it was, I'm looking it up right now. If you take below 33%, he had 26 nights last year where he shot 33% or below. It's a lot. 26 of his 67 nights. So more than 1 out of every 3 nights, he shot 33% or below. That's going to kill you as a team. But I think if he can go to the line a little bit more, and he started to do that last year, if he can take 1 or 2 more shots at the rim instead of a tough fadeaway and improve that shot selection. The fact of the matter is, last year, when you just looked at Key's shot distribution and his shots where he was taking them, the chances were he was shooting 40% most nights, just on kind of league average, the amount of shots he takes, if that makes sense. If you break down his average night and where his shots come from across the board, it's like, and his per game numbers of where he shoots, it's like, okay, you're taking 5 floaters. Well, that's a 40% shot. So you're going 2 for 5 on those, and you're only getting to the rim 3 times. And then you're taking 7 threes, and that's 36%. Okay. So if you shoot average, you're now shooting 4 of 12 or 5 of 12, depending which one goes in. Neither of those are good enough, but you're 1 shot off being 33%. That's my point. So I think he'll fix that. Chris Jones has been working with him a lot on that. Do I think I'll see Keyonte playing point guard at all this season? Yes. I think we'll be intermixing those minutes. I think Keyonte could start at point guard. We'll talk about this next week. Like, I think there's a chance Keyonte and Bryce are your starters. I think there's a chance that Clayton and Keyonte are your starters. I think there's a chance that Collier and Keyonte are your starters. I think there's a chance that Clayton and Sensabaugh are your starters. Like, of those 4 guys, I think you can find every combination there, and that might end up starting. This is an interesting basketball. I've heard a lot of players who can play the 5 on offense, but not on defense. So they're an opposite archetype. So there's a 5 on defense, but not on offense. Yeah, I think that's Walker Kessler, Rudy Gobert, Mitchell Robinson, and all those. Those are the 5s that play 5 on defense, but can't play 5 on offense. And they certainly can't play a 4 on offense. Most 5s can't play a 4 on offense. So I think that's the archetypes there that you're talking about is, okay, these guys are awesome offensively, John Collins and Kyle Filipowski, and they as the 5 because they spread the floor and they do all sorts of things. I think, though, John, I think, has emerged to be able to do 4 offensively. He still hasn't found his way defensively. John and Kyle could end up being very similar. And the defensive one is that you can play the 5, and you can't, and you hurt offensively. Are the Jazz more likely to use their trade exception to go after an expensive vet like Terry Rozier for a pick or trade for a younger player like Jalen Green? So I think it depends when they use the trade exception. As we talked about this week, if you use the trade exception at the trade deadline this year, when I think it has its highest value, it's to help someone get out of financial penalty. And because the Jazz will be at the salary floor and have room to get up to the aprons, they'll be able to use this more than any other team in the league. Nobody else is going to have that delta of space. If the Jazz use it at the trade next year in free agency, is it more likely to try to use the extension to get Brandon Ingram type and trade Lauri? Side note, let's just go Brandon Ingram. At that point, I think if we haven't used it at the trade deadline this year and that doesn't come to fruition, then I think at free agency next year, we're making that move in that regard. One of the other questions was asked a ton, and I came to run out of time, or I missed it somewhere. I had it up here pretty high, I think, and then maybe flew through it. Is assuming the Jazz hold on to their draft pick and somehow manage to grab another stud, can the Jazz front office finally start going all in on returning the playoffs? We'll talk about this next week on when do the Jazz say go? The scenario is that Ace Bailey, the fastest scenario, we'll talk about this more next week, is that Ace Bailey hits. And it's clear that Ace Bailey is hit. And then we're drafting in the top 4 and we know we're getting another guy we feel comfortable is going to hit. Maybe you start to layer in there. It's a little early. We'll talk about it next week. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Thanks so much for being locked on Jazz. Great questions. If you have some others, you didn't get them in, feel free to send them to me. I'll probably grab them throughout the week because those are really fabulous and we're a little short on content next week. Thanks so much for being a part of Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast in the Utah Jazz. Every dayers, I hope you really do realize how much I appreciate you. If you want to follow me on socials, it's DLock09. Have a great one. We now send you the first ever national 24/7 NBA channel. And if you're on audio, just check out Locked On NBA. We're still going every night, every day. It's Locked On NBA.